statements issued by hosts, co-hosts, guests, and anyone else appearing on the show do not reflect the stance of the College of New Jersey or the NJDOE OSE. Please use your professional judgment when implementing strategies and resources within your practice.
Switches and apps, little adjustments, big impact. The AT Center presents AT Talks, where every voice has room.
Welcome back to AT Talks. This is part 3 of our multi-part deep dive into Title II compliance and digital accessibility with Janet DeSenzo. If you haven't done so already, go back and listen to parts 1 and 2 first. In this final episode, we provide the blueprint for an accessible classroom, covering accessible document creation, strategies for tackling the dreaded PDF problem, and playing our game, Compliant or Complaint.
When teachers are making instructional materials for their students, what should they include to make sure that these materials are accessible? So, you could talk about different elements or how the text is structured.
Yeah, we have to think about, and I know a lot of teachers probably haven't thought about this before, but you know, you have those heading structures, just not normal text, if you will, what's called normal text. And if you just type in a Google Doc or if you just type in a Word doc, you have everything labeled as normal text. But if you're using headings 1, headings 2, that directs the screen reading tool to the order in which text is going to be read out loud if you are using a screen reader. So those types of building blocks are really important to know about. You also have images that may not be very clear for somebody who may have a visual impairment. So we have to make sure we're using alt text. And more, tools like Word, and even if you're using Google Slides, as soon as you put a picture into a slide, Google has the ability to allow you to put that alt text in. So you're not just, you have to think about how that picture is presenting to a student. Do you want a detailed description of what that picture is? Do you need to say that there's text over the picture so that they understand how it relates to the context of the information in the slide? So more and more creation tools that teachers are using have those tools built in, the alt text tools, the headings, and the ability to tag things in a certain way. And also the ability to change your color contrast, right? I know a lot of teachers like to, again, pretty up some of their presentations or maybe use highlighting of text, but we have to make sure that, the text is easily readable. Are we using gray text? Are we using light gray text? Are we using text that has high contrast abilities? So those are some of the things that I would think about if I was a teacher creating my own materials.
And can I just add on to that? So headings are so easy to do. And if you've never done them, they're right at the top of whether you're in Microsoft Word or a Google Doc. I'm in a Google Doc right now, and it just says there's a button that says with a drop down that says normal text. And as soon as I click on that, I get all these other options for title, subtitle, heading 1, heading 2, heading 3. And Microsoft Word has the same exact thing. It's actually a box where you can choose between your different heading levels. And that's one of the ones that is such an easy thing to implement. That anyone can do it. It's not like you need some special technology or special settings or anything like that. And then the other thing I want to add for alt text, and maybe someone can also add on to this, while you want to be as descriptive as possible, you also want to keep it short and to the point. So like 1, 2, maybe 3 sentences. But I think when you get over that, it gets a little long and is not may not be not. I'm not gonna say not good, but it's better to keep short and to the point. So trying your best to being as descriptive as possible and as few words as possible, because while maybe we're not seeing it, the screen reader or whatever is reading that, and so it needs to be quick for that
What is the
individual.
important information
Yeah,
that the individual is trying to get here? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's like descriptive yet concise as
yeah,
they're
yes.
moving getting all that auditory information, through the screen reader potentially. And that's the whole point of the heading. When we're talking about heading level 1 or heading level 2, that is really to be able to navigate. So when you're perceiving something with your eyes and you're looking at all the script or the text rather, then you can kind of skip around. But when you cannot see it and you're relying on that audio, the headings are what lets you navigate effectively, and that's really what makes it accessible. Or another adds another piece of that,
Well,
accessibility.
Well, and like I talk about accessibility because with those who use screen readers, and we can scan and see where we need to. You were just saying that so quickly, but someone with a screen reader cannot scan the text as easily as we can because
Mhm.
they need to listen to every little bit. So having those headings, like you said, is so important because I can jump from section to section now, and I can find where I need to be. And any of these websites that you have that we have talked about today, most likely are using headings so we can jump between the different sections and get down to the nitty-gritty, the part that you need to be in when you're searching for something.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those headings are especially helpful for all the teachers who want to share those documents but turn them into PDFs first,
Mhm.
right? So if
Mm.
you have a PDF that's not tagged or that doesn't have headings, it's going to be really difficult to navigate through. So if I know, we're going to talk about PDFs, but PDFs are something that they kind of make me twitch a little bit because I'm like, where'd you get that PDF from? Um, you know, Years ago, we'd always used to do we used, one of my favorite tools was something called a do PDF. So we always we started with a Word document, but we wanted to turn it into a PDF quickly. So we'd hit the print button, and then you print it to PDF, and then it just kinda turns it into a picture, right? Like an
Mhm.
image. Well, that's not accessible. Um, so even now, we have to think about how are we making PDFs? I mean, if I were a teacher, I don't think I would want to be sharing my Google Docs as a doc unless there's a reason to do that. Maybe we want our students to be putting in their own notes. But if you are afraid that your students are going to be changing all your text around in a shared
Mhm.
document, then chances are you're going to turn it into a PDF. So let's make sure that number one, before we turn it into the PDF, we've used those headings, headings 1, headings 2, because that will carry over, or for the most part, it will carry over when we convert that document into a PDF, right? And we're going to export it as a PDF. We're not going
Mhm.
to print it to a PDF.
No. Well, and I think the
Well,
good thing though about Google Docs is when you do share it, you can choose people to be viewers as well. And I do that a
Yes.
lot. And so that
Mm.
way no one can edit or touch the text. They can just read it. They can still copy it, but if you give them a PDF, it's not going to matter anyway. They
Right.
can copy it and do whatever they want with it. But right,
Hmm.
that not print to PDF, export to PDF. Yes, that is those are two different distinctions.
well, and, I'm thinking about so there's lots of different strategies in terms of PDFs as well as other types of documents. So, Janet, I know we've talked before. Let's say you create a document, or maybe you find a digital document like a PDF, maybe on different websites, teachers pay teachers, other places. You know, how do you check to see, right? So, we've talked about creating your own documents. You mentioned obviously several things just then about PDFs and making sure, trying to ensure that accessibility. But let's say you're not sure, you're looking at a document. How do you check to see that it is accessible before you share it with your students?
There's a few tools that you could use. The first thing that I always do is if when I open that document, if I can't select the text, if I can't mouse over it and select it, then it's just an automatic no. Now, are there other things you can do? Can you copy and paste it into something else? Maybe, you could OCR it and recreate it. Um, but there's accessibility checkers out there. I know Microsoft Word has a built-in accessibility checker. Um, there are some add-ons for Google Docs. I wish Google Docs had one built into it, but there's
Mm.
there's one called Accessibility Checker for Docs. That's one of them that you could use. But if you're online and you're looking at either tools that you're buying, content that you're buying from a website or something that you're getting from a third party, you can um you can load those and test them out in different tools online. There's the Wave Chrome extension that you could use. I know that's been pretty popular. I know I just took a whole website and loaded it in. I can't remember the website, and they gave me a whole report Actually, I was just checking on our school's website to just load it in and check for accessibility, and I wanted to test out this online tool that was free, and it actually was free, and it gave me a very detailed report of anything that needed to be tweaked. But there are many tools out there, and I'm assuming that as we go on, there's going to be more and services. But if you're a teacher, I think that's where you can start. Make sure that you can select your text. There is a built-in reader in your Adobe Reader. I don't even know if everybody knows about this, but if you go into Adobe Reader and you click on the tools under those three dots, there is a read aloud tool. So check your PDFs before you share them out. And check some of, the free extensions that are online that you could use within Google to see if your websites can be read aloud.
Well, there's Google, there's one thing. So you mentioned WAVE, so I wanted to
Mhm.
talk about WebAIM as another resource,
Mhm.
webaim.org. They're a nonprofit group out of Utah State. But on their website, webaim.org, there's a whole list of resources as well. So Wave is one of them. They have that color contrast checker. So you can check to see if the website does have contrast to the WCAG guidelines. They have just a bunch of different types of tools to do those kinds of checks. And Wave is another one of them for website accessibility. So definitely looking at that. The other Google so Wave has an extension for Chrome, but also Grackle Docs is another one. That's part
Mhm.
of like the G Suite like workplace marketplace. It's like a kind of separate or I
Mhm.
guess additional Chrome store. But you can have that as an add-on into Google Docs. So Janet, like you were saying, it's not a standalone built in, but you can add it into Google Docs. And so then it becomes in that add-on, an option in that add-on menu. And
Mhm.
it will provide, just like Microsoft Word on the right-hand side, it'll give you what's wrong and then how to fix it. That's
Mhm.
what I really love about Microsoft. I think they do an exceptional job. They tell you exactly what's wrong and exactly how to fix it, and it gives you all kinds of options. Like one very specific one, let's say you're on a PowerPoint slide deck, and if the top is not labeled as a title slide, it'll give you that option to just set it as a title slide. So
Nice.
things like that, where it's sort of built in, you can enable it right under the review tab, and it walks you through the steps. So you don't need to be an expert in accessibility to use the checker to make sure that it is. And if you don't know how it is, it will tell you how to fix it, which I think is really helpful.
Yeah. Very helpful. I will say one thing, being our Google admin for our school, some of those add-ins, teachers, they may be blocked by your IT.
Ah,
So
good point.
what
Yeah.
I actually did was, because you need to give them access to your documents, right? So as a
There's a
IT person, I would say nope. So what I did was that in my personal Gmail, I added the accessibility checker for docs and the Grackle add-on. And then I just ran my documents through it in my personal account. And then once I saw that they were accessible, I took the final version and I uploaded that into my school account. So
Mhm. Absolutely.
those IT people keeping us safe all the time.
Will be our friends.
Yes.
They will become our friends. But I think about this. We've had conversations over time on the podcast about how the world of ed tech and AT, it's just moving and inching, and truly at this point, I mean, they're like synonymous. So when we're thinking about this, and I know we tease about, the IT person or we label all these people, that it really is just this it has to be collaborative, like Madison was saying earlier, kind of having those cross-disciplinary teams, and that they're really everything is so built in that it really isn't that incredibly different. And we really want to look at all the strengths that everybody is bringing to the table and get solutions for our students.
Hmm.
It's
Yep.
everybody's job.
Yes,
That's right.
it is.
It's time for a game segment. We're talking about rules and regulations. We're going to call this one compliant or complaint. Madison and myself are going to read a statement about digital accessibility, and Vanessa and Janet, you tell us if it's compliant or if it should be a complaint. So you guys can just however you want to answer. We usually buzz in sometimes.
You make a fake buzzer noise. That's
Yep.
fun.
Yep. So here's our first one. If I post a video on my Google Classroom, auto-generated captions are good enough for compliance.
Ding, ding, ding. I would like to answer that one. I think that is a complaint because auto captions can often be inaccurate. You want to review them for accuracy.
Good
All right.
point, Vanessa.
All right.
Our next one, Title II updates only apply to the public-facing school website, not the password-protected Google Classroom.
I'll do that one. Title II updates include everything. There are some exceptions, but the password protected Google Classroom is not one of them. So anything that you're using in your classroom, even if it's, behind some kind of login wall, if you have to log into it, doesn't mean that it doesn't need to be compliant. Everything, whether it's public facing or not, falls under the new Title II guidelines.
Good. Ding, ding, ding. Point, Janet.
All right. Tied
All right.
neck and neck.
Next one. Using click here as a hyperlink text is good practice.
I will take that one. This is also a pet peeve. It is a complaint because exactly what it says. Click here doesn't give any information. So as we were saying before, if you can't visually see the text to understand what the link is, the click here gives you no information. So instead, you would want to use something descriptive like this is the link for the syllabus, or the information you were looking for is within this document, or something that gives the person information to the link and that this is the link that's going to bring me to the information I'm looking for, not just using click here.
And I'm going to take that one step further. I've seen people include in their syllabus the actual URL with the long strand of letters. Please don't do that because they will try and read that, and that's not helpful.
No,
not at all.
absolutely. With all the alphanumeric jargon that is in a very long link.
HTTPS.
Yeah,
Yes.
true.
All right. If I use a darker shade of gray text on a white background, it looks cleaner and is perfectly accessible.
Ding, ding, ding. I will take that one. So if you look at WCAG is broken into different levels, right? Level A, double A, triple A, and contrast is mentioned in double A and triple A. Light gray on white does not fall within the double A standards. And you think about bold contrasts, you want bold contrast so that visually your documents are accessible. So contrast matters, contrast ratio matters. Make sure that your information is bold enough to be seen and the color ratios are clear.
And you can use some of those tools that we mentioned earlier to check those if they're in compliance.
And I actually just want to go back real quick because I remember hearing this. So we were talking about hyperlink text and not putting the full links in. The person who created the internet, Sir Tim Berners-Lee, thought no one was ever going to see those links. He thought those were going to be behind the scenes. And so he actually has gone out and said if he could recreate the internet, he's the one who created hyperlinks, he would not use the www dot how we do them. He would do it completely differently. So that's just he said that as well. Okay. So next one, I can just save my Google Doc as a PDF and it automatically keeps all the accessibility tags.
Go ahead, Vanessa. I like that one.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yes.
I will take this one, and I think so Janet, we talked about this a little bit, but just to kind of really hone in on this, because this is potentially an easy fix, right? When someone is thinking about, they have a Google Doc, they want to create a PDF. We talked about obviously the view only and things like that, but let's just say, we want that PDF. When you go to export it, right, or create, right, the PDF, that you want to export it or download it rather than doing the print to PDF. The point of that is to maintain whatever structure you have already put in it, right? So just, Janet, could you just reiterate a little what you said before? Because I think this is something that could really move the needle a bit in terms of this accessibility and just making sure that people understand this a little more.
Yeah. So when if you are making that content yourself, make sure that you're using those font options that allow you to choose your headings, heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, versus your normal text, right? That's going to help with navigation and making your content readable. If you are going to be converting it into a PDF, you are going to be looking for that export option, either the export as PDF or download as PDF in Google. I know it depends on what platform you're using, and not using your printer, looking for the icon that looks like a printer and saying print to PDF. That would be often the equivalent of scanning a document on your copy machine and making a photograph of it. So you don't want that. You want to keep those tags included to help with navigation and readability.
Awesome. All right. And our last question for you. Accessibility features like headings and alt text benefit all students, not just those with disabilities.
Sure. I mean, I'll take that one. I mean, when you think about accessibility features, think about any of the tools that you would use to access those documents, right? So we're looking at students that are all different types of learners, whether they have a classified disability within an IEP or if they have a 504. When you think about universal design for learning, we want to design our content, our teaching materials in such a way that all learners can benefit from them. And this is just one of those tools, right? To make our documents and our content as accessible as possible. Make your headings clear. Make sure they understand why you're including that picture, and an alt text can explain that. So yeah, I just think it's good teaching. I think it's good content creation.
Good.
Definitely.
Good. Well, I don't know. I think we all win, right? There's no clear.
I think Janet wins. She gets an extra point for helping me on that other PDF question.
I agree. Janet is
You're
the
the
winner.
official winner.
Compliant or complaint.
Ta-da!
So this is all. Thank you for your time today, Janet. It's been incredibly helpful. You've demystified Title II for us. And as Madison said, it feels much more digestible, much more manageable now. I'm sure some districts and even people are starting to worry, especially April's only 2 months or a couple months away from here. So, it might be even closer than we think or when you listen to this. So, is there any way for our listeners to follow your work or find more resources on your topics?
I think the best thing to do is start looking at some of the resources that your teams could use, right? So that Academy that Vanessa was talking about, I think is an awesome jumping off point. Making sure your teams are well-rounded, that you have people from all different departments. But when you're looking at resources, you want to look at practical resources, things that can help you today, help you to put things in order and follow a roadmap. So I think CAST has some great resources, WebAIM, and then the A2Y website has a great accessibility checklist that you can use to start running your materials through to actually start testing them out and, checking off which ones you've checked and which ones still need to be looked at.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much, Janet. Of course, to our listeners, we appreciate you. Don't forget, of course, to subscribe to our AT Talks podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're excited for the rest of season 2.
And you can check us out, the AT Center at TCNJ, at atcenter.tcnj.edu for some resources, and follow us on Instagram. It's just at AT Center TCNJ, and the same on our YouTube channel.
Thank you. Thanks for listening. Thanks, Janet. See you guys later.
Thanks.
Thanks for having me.
And that's a wrap on another episode of AT Talks. A huge thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in. We love making this podcast and building this community with all of you. Remember, the conversation doesn't end here. The team at the Assistive Technology Center at TCNJ is dedicated to supporting educators across New Jersey. If you were inspired by today's discussion and want to bring high-quality, free professional development to your district, Vanessa and Madison are ready to help. To learn how you can partner with the center and build capacity in your school, head over to our website. You can find all the information you need at atcenter.tcnj.edu. And while you're there, we want to hear from you. Visit the podcast tab. There you can send us a question through our Google form, or even better, leave us a voice message on SpeakPipe for us to play live on the show. Be sure to follow us on social media to stay up to date on all our latest events and resources. You can find us on Instagram and YouTube with the handle @ATCenterTCNJ. And don't forget to subscribe to AT Talks on whatever platform you're listening on right now so you never miss an episode. On behalf of Vanessa, Madison, and myself, Brian, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
Experts and users.